The memories of those we lost continue to inspire us as we work to build a world where peace and hope prevail for everyone. Today and all days, Lori and I remember and stand strong with all of you, our friends and colleagues in Nairobi and around the world.
On this occasion, we gather to honor the memory of those who perished and to pay homage to the heroes who emerged from the shadows of tragedy. As we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the bombing of the U.S. Embassy, let us forge ahead with an unwavering dedication to peace. Through our collective efforts, we can honor the memories of those we've lost and build a brighter future for generations to come.
So if I may emphasize or share one more statement from Ambassador Prudence Bushnell, a quote that was featured in the film and a quote that's prominently displayed at the heart of the August 7th Memorial Museum. If you can create community, then you can face anything, even if it is extraordinarily painful. So for the past 4 years as a member of the board, as I wrap up my time here in Kenya, I wanted to say thank you, asante ni sana, for allowing me to join your community and to share in remembering the past and to work with everybody to rededicate ourselves to the difficult but necessary task of supporting a brighter and more peaceful future for ourselves and generations to come. So thank you all very much.
On my program notes, I have distinguished guests. I would say, and I've lived long enough to say it, that our distinguished guests were witnesses to the history which we are evoking today. And I have a feeling that although they may be people we read about in our daily papers as politicians and leaders, they come here first and foremost as human beings in sympathy and empathy. So I know that we Kenyans are sticklers for titles and observations and protocols. They're all my friends, so I'm just going to call them up one by one. May the first be a woman, Honorable Martha Karua.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. Yes, we are here first and foremost as human beings. And for me, I'll begin by saluting the resilience of the survivors and the families of the departed. It is your resilience that has seen this event commemorated every year, and also the resilience of your friends and supporters. I want to urge that the day also be a day to celebrate those who departed. You have memories of them as families and friends. It's a day to reflect on their lives. For the survivors, it's a day to thank God that indeed you survived and lived to tell the tale. It is also a day to ask, has justice been done to the survivors and to the families of the departed? 25 years on, still waiting for compensation. I'm aware that some form of support was given to some families, 173, if my records are correct, of the victims, and which came from USAID. But I'm also aware that there's been ongoing battle in the US courts for compensation of the victims who are non-Americans. I'm more aware about the Kenyan case. And I've been reflecting this morning and asking, what could we have done better as a country, as government, because there was a period I was in government, what could we have done better to expedite compensation for the victims? What could the US government have done better? Yes, we are friends. What could we have done as friends to ensure that there is closure for the victims? It's better late than never. Apart from the court battle, I think that a time has come when the two governments must sit together and see what can be done. It is not enough to say the matter is in court. Both governments have a responsibility. As has been aptly said here, Kenya took the bullet on behalf of the US. We cannot continue waiting for justice for the victims. May this be the year that the victims of this terrible crime finally have closure and have their compensation. On a larger scale, we are talking about building peace so that such incidents do not happen. And it's not just about international peace. It's about local peace. All politics are local. We must begin with where we stand. What are we doing as Kenya to find peace within us? What are we doing as the international community to find peace for the world? Peace is brought by feelings of grievances, whether imagined or real. Conflict is brought by feelings of grievances, imagined or real. May we take time also to introspect, see what are the issues that are bringing grievances in our nation and how they can be solved. May we take time to introspect on what are the grievances in the international arena which could bring lasting peace. Exploitation, discrimination, injustice, because there cannot be peace without justice. Why should the victims be asking for medical support? Kenya should be having universal access to health for everybody. The victims would not suffer, or their relatives, and no Kenyan would suffer. There are things we can do as a country which make life easier, not just for the survivors, but for all our nationals. There are things we can do internationally. The world order is rigged against the weak nations. We are called poor. We are not poor. Our resources continue to be extracted mercilessly. And to support the rich nations to continue with good life while we carry the burden. Look at the countries listed as the poorest. They are the countries richest in all manner of minerals and natural resources. So I'm saying, commemorating the bomb blast, we must go back to the question of peace in the world. And if we want to live as brothers, we have to treat each other as brothers and sisters, internally and externally. These are the things I suggest we ponder on today. May I not finish without starting where I should have begun. That I'm here with my colleagues, also representing our leader, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who brings his greetings. When you see me, see my brother Kalonzo and Wamalwa, know that the entire, and also Senator Kavindu and Manzo here, it means the entire Azimio fraternity is with you commemorating this occasion and asking, what can we do better? I'll say continue with your resilience. Let's work together and let justice prevail. Asanteni.
Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka.
Thank you, John. The survivors and victims, the representatives, our friends from the embassy and friends on Akirago and your team, thank you so much for your invitation. Mimi sitakuwa na mambo mengi. Siku kama hii, Agosti tarehe 7 mwaka wa 1998, nilikuwa waziri wa elimu. I'd taken a fixed-wing flight to Hola to start with an agricultural show in Hola and Tana River, and then attended the first graduation ceremony of Garissa Teachers Training College, which eventually became now Garissa University. Itself became a victim of international terror. I remember we had to be called back quickly, went into a cabinet meeting, and the whole country was under the grip of an incredible situation. Then I realized that one of our cabinet colleagues was not there, the late John Kamotho. And now as it is, Ambassador Prudence Bushnell was in the office on the 21st floor in Honorable Joseph Kamotho's office at the cooperative building. Perhaps that's how she survived. Christina, testimony. What followed there was amazing. During the course of the events then, Kenyans in matatus, Kenyans from all walks of life, braved the situation, the tragedy, literally. And they were their brothers and sisters' keeper. They were not as trained as we heard today from the wonderful lady, but they carried each other, carried each other's burden. They never asked each other, what political party do you belong to? They were just Kenyans helping each other. And I think this is important for us to reflect even as now, as at this particular time as Kenyans. Could we leave the example of Kenyans in 1998? Be our brothers and our sisters' keeper. When Americans have gone through difficult times, remember, September 11th had not happened. In fact, I was of the view that if the lesson from Nairobi had been taken seriously, September 11th could have been avoided. But maybe the world thought that is a tragedy in a third world country. Little did anybody know that was going to catch up with everybody. Dar es Salaam happened, Nairobi happened, the world assumed it's normal until September 11th happened. So this Green Park is indeed reminiscent in a way of what happened of September 11th in New York, and a lesson that we are all the same. We are one, wherever we are. I once was Minister for Foreign Affairs, and I remember appearing before making a presentation before the UN Security Council, not once or twice or third or three times, severally. And when Berlin Wall collapsed, and the period of Cold War was seemingly at an end, the world had assumed that the time to reap the peace dividend had come. But what do we instead reap? Terrible tragedies. Senators, I'll just be talking to you in a minute. Instead of having the peace dividend, we had hot wars everywhere, a product of international hate and terrorism. Well, instead of the Berlin Wall collapsing and bringing with it thereafter peace, the world is hotter. Today, as I was driving here, I was listening to a young musician from Ukraine appearing before Steven Saka of BBC. He has to come in, was in the front line fighting for his country, Ukraine. And if the world is not careful, the war on Ukraine by Russia could turn out to be the opposite of what indeed we have all hoped for. We cannot sit pretty, and we wish that the world will take responsibility together and put humanity together again. Well, we are hearing stories of military coup d'etats everywhere. As of yesterday, the military junta was supposed to hand over to ECOWAS on Sunday after the coup in Niger. Hot wars everywhere. But in this region, because we are at the Horn of Africa, literally, I don't know if you look at the map of Africa and see the Horn of Africa, that horn seems deadly. We are surrounded by a lot of instability as a country. Somalia. Ethiopia is even now beginning to deal with the situation again in the Tigrayan area of Ethiopia. We all know what's happening in Sudan, north and south. And then, of course, within the East African region, we are trying the best we can. We hope if Somalia joins East African community, things will be different. And therefore, growth of religious extremism, some of it pretty bizarre, as Kenyans will have witnessed in Shakahola. These are the challenges of our time. And so, Bwana Kiragu, as you hold us together, call us together here, we want to thank every Kenyan who braved this situation and others unborn. And I want to call on Jean Bahati, who spoke here, just before I end my presentation. If Jean, please, could be somewhere. I want to thank Senator Kavindu and the team of the Senate for what you are doing. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And we hold the view that if we continue to work in justice as Kenyans against each other, we will continue to be a restless nation. Our American friends, you have done well. The Arlington, this is, of course, once reminds anybody who has been to the U.S. of Arlington Place in Washington and Ground Zero Place in New York. This is our Ground Zero. So many Kenyans died unnecessarily. It has been said we took the bullet on behalf of American friends. But we also want to say that the time to bring closure, I agree with my sister mother, the time to bring closure is now. Dr. Romana, is it Romana or Ramana? Thank you. Thank you and welcome home. You said you are 9th generation. We take it from today that you are a Kenyan because you have helped your brothers and sisters. Tusife moyo wa Kenya wenzangu. I know some of the people who got affected here personally. I don't know whether my brother Michael Kwale is here. He buried his wife a place towards Mwingi. I know Simon Kavisi could have been here. He became the TSC secretary. Even Zomo became the chair of the TSC commission. All affected because the Teachers Service Commission were housed here. And I was their minister at the time. Therefore, Teachers Service Commission, continue being strong. and all of us as Kenyans. The cooperative bank, in fact, this bank will grow to heights that are unimaginable because they took the brunt of this beating. I want to tell my daughter, Jean, if she can come, Bahati. Jean Bahati, because ama hawezi kuja aletwe tu. Bahati, you touched my heart. And I don't know how many of you heard what Bahati said. That her mother was 7 months pregnant with her when the tragedy happened. And now out there, watu wanamchekelea, wanasema familia yenu iko na mkosi. We want to pronounce from now, Bahati, hakuna mkosi kwa nyumba yenu. Ulikuwa mkosi wa Kenya nzima. You are just under 25 years. I promise, if God gives me life, to attend your wedding. You will find a wonderful young man. The lessons ambayo kupata, there are many ways of getting to where God had intended you to become. To take you to. So be very strong, my daughter. And as I speak to Bahati, I'm talking to all the others who are affected. Msiseme kwamba mulirogwa, hakuna urogi hapa. Hey. And that is why I want to thank the Dr. Ramana there and Senator Kavindu herself, a worker. She is a faith worker. We need to hold, and really, Kirago, you don't know what you are doing. I heard the general manager saying people can come here, cry the whole day, get prayed for, right? And look at this wonderful young Kenyan girl. Beautiful. I invite young men to look at Bahati, but I'll have to do the vetting for you. God bless you.
Honorable Eugene Wamalwa.
Sibiokumu, I think in terms of protocol, my seniors have already spoken. I should have spoken before them because the Honorable Martha Karua was Minister for Justice before I came to this building. I was here in 2012 as the last Minister for Justice, and I had a phobia for this building because on the day of the bomb blast, I was a very young lawyer. My practice, I was starting out not far from here, just right behind the Hilton Hotel on Corner House. And when the bomb blast happened, we felt the tremors all the way across the street. And we feared coming to this place because of what we saw happen on that day. So when the late President Kibaki appointed me as Minister for Justice, I said a prayer before entering this building that was called Belly Bottom Building. And I was with Honorable Cheptumo, and Cheptumo is right here. He was the Assistant Minister for Justice. He's now a Senator for Baringo, but he's also Chair of the Legal Committee, and he and his colleagues in the Senate are supporting Senator Kavindu, the ad hoc committee. I just want to thank you, honorable members of the Senate, for standing with the families who lost their dear ones 25 years ago. And I also want to urge the conversation that we started with Honorable Cheptumo and the American Embassy. You are talking of over 11 years ago when we were in this building, the issue of compensation, that America remains the greatest and the strongest partner of Kenya in the war against terror. And they have stood with us through the years. 2013, when we had the Westgate attack. 2015, when we had the Garissa attack. Through 2019, Dusit attack, 2020, when we had a terror attack in Manda Bay and 3 Americans lost their lives. We have stood together as partners. And we are saying that that partnership comes with friendship and commitment against a common enemy. We say a friend in need is a friend indeed. And that is why today we are urging President Biden and the American government that they should hear the voice of the families of the victims 25 years later and bring closure to this matter through compensation. We want to stand with you. We also want to urge the Kenya government, the Kenya Kwanza government, to put these families first. I'm disappointed that they didn't send a representative here. Hawa wa Kenya pia mungewaweka kama wana Kenya Kwanza, to stand with them, to keep working with the American government to ensure that justice is done and compensation is received. And even as we go into the future, we want to urge the American government, as our partners, let us continue strengthening our partnership in the war against terror, because Kenya as an anchor state remains a major target of terrorism. As we speak, we are still seeing terror attacks right from Mandera down to Lamu. And we urge the Kenya government that the idea of reopening the Kenya-Somalia border is something you need to reconsider. With the resurgence of Al-Shabaab, let us keep our guns and focus trained on the terror enemies that we have across the border. Let us not turn our guns on our citizens. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon our distinguished guests, or rather to request them to stay, if they would, for the wreath-laying ceremony. We shall understand if you have to go, but please stay with us until the end. We've had reference to Dr. Ramona of California, but maybe there's a mirror image of her in a representative who is, well, they're both homegrown, but she's further away. Our next speaker, with her committee, if they would join her, is the chairperson of the Ad Hoc Committee on Compensation, Senator Agnes Kavindu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fellow leaders, the officials of U.S. Embassy, members of the August 7th Bomb Memorial Consortium, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Today, we mark the 25th anniversary of the U.S. Embassy bombing in the Nairobi and Tanzania. We all gather here, brought together by the tragic event that shook the whole world. These attacks were a reminder of the devastating consequences of terrorism and importance of international teamwork of the face of hardship. 224 people were killed and thousands more injured. In Nairobi, 213 people lost their lives. 500 people were wounded. The bombings claimed the lives of hundreds of innocent people and injured thousands more. These attacks serve as a reminder that no country is immune to the threat of terrorism, and that we must remain vigilant in our efforts to prevent such acts from happening again. Ladies and gentlemen, the attack brought many casualties who were pedestrians and motorists in the crowded streets of Nairobi. Vehicles caught fire, persons were blinded, hundreds of Kenyans were orphaned, many Kenyan women were widowed, many suffered miscarriages and complications. The victims suffered effects of post-traumatic stress disorders. They also sustained material, emotional, physical, and financial injury. In the aftermath of the bombings, we witnessed the resilience and the strength of the human rights, the human spirit. The Kenyan and international communities rallied together to provide aid, support, and comfort the affected. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been 25 years, and many of the Kenyan victims of the bomb blasts continue to seek compensation. We make rebel countries have had for many years. This anniversary provides the opportunity for the U.S. to further enhance its long-term commitment to Africa in the U.S.-African relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate had a committee was investigate the compensation of the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of U.S. Embassy in Nairobi was established in June 2023. We also we are very grateful to the Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi, and his deputy, Kathuri Murungi, for allowing us and giving us the funds to be able to move this noble work that the Senate ad hoc committee is doing. This committee is mandated engage the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs to support the eligibility of Kenyans and American victims, spouses, and next of kins in the Victim Compensation Fund pursuant to the Justice for United States Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorist Acts. The committee will further coordinate with the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs in the engagement of victims representing the U.S. government and stakeholders at home and abroad to pursue and accomplish the compensation victims of the families of the victims of the Kenyan nationals. And finally, we coordinate with the Ministry of Health to explore subsidized medical treatment for the surviving victims of the bomb blasts. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, as we reflect on the event of 1998, let us not only remember the lives of the lost, but also commitment to promoting peace, understanding, and cooperation among the nations. Let us honor the memory of the victims by working tirelessly to prevent such senseless acts of violence and hatred from ever happening again. Thank you, Senator Agnes Kavindu, MP, the chairperson. And from there now, I'll let the members of the other committee introduce themselves. And if they have a comment, do it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. All protocol observed. My name is Senator Beatrice Ogola, a member of the ad hoc committee. As a Senate committee and as a representative of the people of Kenya, we begin a journey of seeking for compensation for the victims of the 1998 bomb blast that happened here where we are. All we are saying is that justice to the victims is justice to this country. And we are saying that we are seeking for compensation for the loss of life. We seek compensation for the injuries that were incurred. We seek for compensation for the opportunities that were lost. We have children that dropped out of school. We have people who are still seeking for medical attention. And Honorable Chair, just this week, fellow Kenyans, in Homa Bay County, in Suba North sub-county, we are going to bury one of the victims by the name Jane Odemba, who 25 years will be buried without compensation. So we seek for justice for all the victims. Thank you.
Senators, leaders, kanisa, na wale waliumia na wale na marafiki wao, Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Yangu mimi ni senator wa Embu County, Alexander Munyi Mondigi, committee member wa hii kamati. Yangu tu ni kuomba tu, kanisa muendelee kuomba na wale wengine, kwa sababu tuko hapa, hatuko senator wa Kenya Kwanza ama Azimio, tuko senator wa serikali ya Kenya, ndio tuweze kuona mwananchi wa Kenya kwa kipindi miaka 25. Kuna mtu alizaliwa na macho na leo ana macho, aidha ni ya gari ama ni ya pikipiki, anakuanga amelipwa. Ni aibu kubwa sana tukiwa tumekaa hapa miaka 25 na watu wetu waliumia na wakulipwa. Kwa hivyo naishie vile tuko ngurubu moja. Hiyo ingine, wewe chairperson wa kamati, next time kuna mambo ingine yafaa iwe consultation, uangalie ndio wakati unaitana uweze kuwa kama governor angekuwa hapa, kama serikali ingekuwa hapa, kwa sababu najua serikali ya Kenya Kwanza iko inapenda kila mtu katika Kenya mzima aweze kuwa, tuweze kwenda safari moja. Kwa hivyo next time utajulisha sisi, tutakuonyesha njia. Serikali tuko na hakika, serikali yetu, rais wetu ambaye ni Ruto na deputy wako hapa, na tutajua watasikana na serikali nyingine, tuweze kuona ukweli uko wapi, ndio watu waweze kulipa pesa yao. Asante, ni mimi rafiki wenu. Asante, mbarikiwe sana.
Thank you, our chair of this committee. My name is William Jeptumo, Senator Baringo County, and I'm a member of this committee. They say justice delayed is justice denied. I want to join my colleagues and fellow leaders who have spoken before us that indeed justice for the victims have been delayed for 25 years. And I'm happy today that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya has taken the step to join the victims in pushing for the compensation of the Kenyan victims of the bomb blast. In 1998, I was an employee of CBK, just here. And when the bomb blast took place here, the entire CBK building was actually shaking. And the kind of damage that this country suffered continues to be fresh in our memories. And therefore, as happily said by our chair, The mandate of this committee is to join the other stakeholders, the victims, the consortium of victims. The able lady has spoken to us here very well. The government of the U.S. We also want to talk about engaging the American Senate, because where we have the challenge is that the victims of the Kenyan population cannot be compensated because the legal framework, I think, in America is actually not available. It is our business as a Senate, and I want to tell the country that this Senate has the full mandate not only to deal with this matter in Kenya, but we will shortly also be able to visit America and approach the Congress and also share this challenge, because it is important that we continue in this journey and bring to a closure. And I want to agree with the leaders who have spoken before. I think the time has come for us to bring this to a closure. And let me say finally, there is the new category of victims, the silent victims, who were not alive then. There are many. The names have been read here. It is the business of the government of the Republic of Kenya. It is the business of every leader of the House of Parliament to ensure that our Kenyan victims are compensated. Let me say that we continue to cherish the cordial relationship between Kenya and the United States. But friendship ought to bring out some element of responding to the challenges of our people. And I believe that when we continue to build on this cordial relationship, it will be a requirement. And we insist that the government of America should indeed be able to also take a step forward and be able to assist in compensating our people. So I want to wish the victims God's protection. We thank God that you are alive today. And those of us who are in position of government today, in parliament, in government, every situation, will be able to participate together and ensure that shortly we bring to a closure this issue and get you a full compensation. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. My name is Paris Tobiko. Let me say the agenda of the Senate has been read out. We will be appealing not just to the American law, but to the conscience of the American nation to bring this situation of the victims, the survivors, and of those who have passed on to bring this matter to closure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all. Good afternoon. God is good, and all the time. My name is Jones Mwaruma, the Senator for Taita Taveta, a member of the ad hoc committee. I relate to with the sentiments and mandate as read by our chair, Senator Agnes Kavindu Mudhama. And I would like to say that in the interest of time, these people are seeking justice. This justice, the best time to be served was 25 years ago. It was not served. The next best time to serve this justice is now, and that is the mandate of this ad hoc committee. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. And as we go and sit, we still want to insist, because the embassy and the Americans are represented here. Please, we always plead for human rights. Human rights. Those lives who went and those who are alive are human, and they need their rights. We are pleading that we are included in that fund that is already there, so that we can compensate our people once and for all. And I want to promise the Senate, standing for the government of Kenya, will leave no stone unturned until we see the compensation of our people. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. If you've got any sort of chronometer, you will acknowledge that it's now past 1 o'clock. So we're running an hour late. Sorry?
yangu tu kushapata shinda. Nimeona mshana ule alikuwa hapa, labda ako na shinda. Nataka kumwambia kama vile mheshimiwa Musyoka alisema anjarogwa vile angefanya ni yake Mungu mbele ndiye aweze kuendelea vizuri. Mimi nitampatia 20,000 aende akafanye biashara.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, kindly, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, as we draw to a close, may I please appeal to you to retain what it is that brought us here, which was to remember the departed. If you've seen somebody who is worthy of a donation and you know what they look like, I can assure you that if you come to me and give me $1 million bob, I shall accept it. You can try me as a guinea pig. So I know it's very difficult here. There are friends. There's Mayor Joe Akech, who's here with us, who was mayor at the time. There's PC Nathan Kahara, who is here. There is MP Stephen Mule, who is here. There are many dignitaries at events such as these. So can we just go a bit faster to the final event on the program, which is the laying of the wreaths. But before we get there, we've had references to the Teachers Service Commission, which suffered at the time, but is now entertaining us so grandly. And we must thank Chairman James Kiragu and his team for sustaining this building and keeping it going without any funding whatsoever externally. We Kenyans also, this is not a plea, as a Kenyan, this is the only building where you can have access to for only 50 shillings. If you go to the museum, it's slightly more than that. So I think the members of the press who are here, the Fourth Estate, let us spread the word. When we talk about Ground Zero, this is our monument. So we have to support it ourselves. I mean, there's been a lot, the Americans, compensation, but I think as a personal Kenyan, as a citizen, we have to take ownership of the building ourselves and support Chairman Kiragu in his endeavors and to support his general manager, Natasha Mbugus. So, the laying of the wreaths, now this could go a bit pear-shaped, but Honorable Martha Karua, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, so we could get the
we closer to the good old theatre speak. Let's get this distance closed. Come all the way so that we're very close by. Lots and lots of reeds. Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, if you'd be so kind. Our violin, has he gone? Music is always a great accompaniment. Has our it's left us? Oh, no, we've got the Teacher Service Commission Choir. Sorry. There will also be the board of the Memorial Park. All our speakers, Christopher Machin. From the U.S. Embassy. We have members from the Senate Committee, from the consortium. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not leave. Lunch is to be served. Please don't go away. Lunch is to be served where you are seated. There won't be any queuing, but please stay for lunch. There's catering for 600 people, so please stay for lunch. We have a wreath from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We have a wreath from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We should have wreaths made by the consortium. Thank you very much. We need a vote of thanks. This is Kenya. We need a vote of thanks. Please stay for lunch. And Chairman Kirago is the chair. Yes. The chairman has an important announcement about a new addition to